What's up everybody, this is Joseph, welcome back to my channel. What are the main differences between UK and Italy? This is exactly what I'm covering today, so keep watching. Welcome back to a new episode of Joe TV, the place for new coaches, content creators and entrepreneurs. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Joseph Rebelli. I am a marketing and branding coach, and I'm here to help you to up-level your brand and business online. Each and every week, you're gonna find a new video every Wednesday where I dive into digital marketing and personal branding. And every Sunday is the place to get to know each other a little bit better. And I cover mindset, books, movies, business, and so much more. So if you're excited, press some love with the little like button and don't forget to subscribe and the doorbell so you get notified each and every time I upload a new video. You can also follow me on Instagram right here and TikTok right there. And with that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic. Right, so if you don't know, I love Dolly Parton, as you can see, and I am Italian, originally from Venice, but I've been living in London for the last 7 years. So let me tell you, there is so much difference between Italian and English culture, and I decided to break it down in 10 points. And point number one is socializing. Socializing is completely different from Italy and England. And let me tell you, when I moved here, I kind of struggled for the first 6 months of my time here because the way we interact with people in Italy is completely different from the way English people interact in general. Italian people are more outgoing, more warm, more passionate about anything, and English people tend to be more shy, reserved, and kind of cold, if you will, a little bit. So, you know, when I moved here, I really struggled to make new friends because the way you hang out with people, you meet new people in Italy is completely different from here. People tend to not speak to you on a club or something. They tend to not approach you, or even at work, it's really difficult to kind of commit to go out in a way that is like outside for a drink or a coffee or something like that. So the first 6 months were really struggling. And, you know, sometimes English people will come out with some sentence such, you know, let's go for a coffee sometime or let's keep in touch. And this is something that you might think is genuine, but actually it's just a way to be nice and they don't really mean that. So I remember when I first started, to kind of meet new people, I would be like, oh, let's go for a coffee sometime. And they would be like, yeah, let's do it, sure. And I would be like, yeah, okay, when? And they would be like, oh, well, I will let you know, and then they would disappear. This is not something about being rude, which is what I thought at the beginning, but it's just really, a kind of polite way, which is taking me to point number two, which is politeness and, being very formal. English people are super polite and they tend to be nice and, kind to each and everybody. If you come here and you are an expat, so you come from a different country, you might think that people are super nice all the time. And it is true until a certain extent. People do that as a form of respect to each and everything and each and everyone. I love about the British culture the fact that everyone is the same in terms of, the way it gets treated. There's no any difference for, gender, religion, or diversity in general. And I really love that. Whether in Italy, we tend to kind of speak our mind a little bit more. So, unfortunately, it is really the country where you will get screamed in the street if you're gay, unfortunately, or maybe you will get looked in a certain way, or people will kind of be awkward intentionally to actually make you realize that they are talking about you. And this is not everywhere, this is not everybody, but in general, there isn't such an open mind when it comes to something that is not similar to the Italians. And if it's different, you will get point on it. So, and English people try not to do that. So this is a great point. However, very often in a situation where you kind of have to be direct and you kind of have to speak your mind, it gets a little tricky, as you know, they tend to not have a confrontation ever, and you don't really know if what they say is what they mean or if they actually are just trying to be nice to you. So I found this very difficult at the beginning, and sometimes I still struggle. I am married to a Brit, so obviously the cultural crash is there every day. I am very direct, very straight to the point, and he's very not. So obviously this is where we kind of crash a little bit. But you know, it's all about kind of learning each other points and being able to, you know, adjust ourselves a little bit. I did change a lot throughout the years. I am not as direct as I used to be. I am when it's needed, but I try to avoid confrontation if they're not necessary. Number 3 is the weather. The weather is a cliche in England. Everybody thinks it rains all the time. Everybody thinks the weather is awful all the time. And what I would say, it is definitely different from Italy. I mean, the northeast of Italy is not sunny all year long. However, there are seasons, which is what is missing in the UK. You tend to have not too much of a hot weather, not too much of a cold weather. It's kind of the same all the time. And what I really personally struggle with is the lack of sunlight. So it's not about the rain, it's not about the fog, which is not really existing. The foggy London town is not really a thing anymore. The fog used to come from the chimney, and now that the chimney are not really on function anymore, it just doesn't happen. And you know, when it comes to the weather, I didn't used to mind it a lot at the beginning when I came here. For the first 4 years in here, it was okay. But actually now I really do struggle throughout the winter time with the lack of sunshine, especially from January to March. I suffer of a syndrome called seasonal affective disorder, which is a form of depression that happens every time there is a lack of sunshine, and is depending on the fact that the country doesn't actually get enough sunlight, which is why loads of people take so many supplements of vitamin D and so on. So yeah, this is definitely something that no matter how long I've been living here, and all the Italians and people that are not from here, they probably come from Spain or generally warmer country, really do struggle. So that's one big point. Point number 4 is the order. Now, what do I mean by order? English people tend to be in the right place at the right time when it's needed, especially when it comes to queuing, something that Italian people don't like to do, and I am one of them. I'm guilty of this. We just don't queue in Italy. It's just a thing. We hate the queue. We don't get it. We don't want to waste our time. We want to get somewhere quickly like everybody else. We just don't follow the rules, right? So it is something that in England is not accepted. English people will queue everywhere, anywhere, anytime. I found myself seeing English people queuing without knowing why they were queuing. This is the level of you know, order that you can get. And another funny point is when people are in London in the tube, and you instantly can spot if they are British or Londoner, or they are living outside, or they are tourists. Why? For the way they stand on the escalator. If you are someone standing on the escalator, London rules are very strict. You need to be on your right hand side. If you are walking on the escalator, you have to be on the left hand side. Well, guess what? If you are a tourist, you probably will be somewhere in the middle, and people will give you the worst eye contact ever, and that means that they secretly hate you. However, they will never tell you because they don't do confrontation. So it is a point that I learned really quickly, and the only thing I haven't learned quite much yet is the queuing thing. I'm very Italian on the queuing, unfortunately, but you know, I got better throughout the years, and I think, you know, practice makes perfect. And sometimes my husband say to me, you have to queue, like, why you didn't queue? I feel really embarrassed why you didn't queue. And he's really British and I'm really not, so it's just really funny, you know, this culture crash. But yeah, this is another big point. They're super in order, and you know, actually another point that I think they're really good on is the timing. Whenever you say to them 7:30, they will be there 7:30. I am very Italian on that. is, for me, in Italy, we do have a little bit of a loose rule when it comes to timing. In the Northeast, it's a little bit better than the South, but if I say 7:30, people know that I will probably turn up around 7:45. And in London, it really is difficult sometimes due to the rush hour, the tube or something, and you expect people to be 5-10 minutes late. So I kind of get away with it very often, but I am normally not on the clock on things, which sometimes is an issue. However, if it's something online, I am definitely on point. Yeah, so this is another point. Point number 5 is food on the go. Now, Italy is a huge place for food culture, right? Italian food is massive, and as Italians, we don't really do food on the go in Italy. We don't tend to grab a takeaway on a lunch break. We don't tend to, have food on the street or having like a street market thing. It's just not really a thing. We do takeaway now, and we started to do them in the bigger cities. It's just not a thing for us. We just love the meal time. We do have a certain way of consuming food. We have a smaller breakfast, we have a massive lunch and a massive dinner. It's just the way it is. And even at work, in a work environment, you will have an hour break where you will consume a full meal in the restaurant, and then you will go back to work. This is how we do it. In England, this is very different. People will have a very small lunch, or if they do, it will be in the office in front of a screen. They will have a sandwich and they will have some crisp. And this is a typical British thing that honestly, I don't understand. I do not understand crisp and sandwich as lunch. It's just not something I do. And I've been living here for 7 years, and no matter how long I've been here, I still don't get it. My husband does it, loads of my English friends do it, and I just have to have a proper meal. My routine will be having a big breakfast and then going to the gym and then having a big lunch, and then have a snack and then have a dinner. I am a foodie person. I love eating. It's something that I do and I really enjoy it. Whether, English people can have a sandwich like 1 and be okay all the way until 7, I will die. So it's very, very different the way we consume food, or the way we consume food in, Italy compared to England. So that's another big difference. Point number 6 is kiss it goodbye. What do I mean by this? The way we leave a workplace, a friend, is completely different in Italy comparing to England. Now, in Italy, we are very touchy-feeling. We love a kiss on the cheek, we love a pat on the back, we love a hug. We're very touchy-feeling as population. It's just the way we are. Probably not right now with COVID-19, but in general, we really are. Where in England, people are trying to be a little bit more discreet in the way they do it. So, for example, if you are leaving someone on a workplace or a friend, you will give him a pat in the back, handshake, bye buddy, see you later kind of thing. Not really any kissing, not really any hugging. Sometimes you do, but not very often. In London, people do expect you to be a little bit more open in the way you leave a conversation on a workplace, because obviously there are so many people from different countries, so the cultures kind of blend together. But if you are outside from London and you kiss someone in the cheek to say goodbye, they are like, whoa, what are you doing? Like literally every time I go to, a place that is like outside from London, and I am very Italian, when I say goodbye to people, I just hug them and kiss them on the cheek. I'm very, very touchy-feeling. People are like, what are you doing? This is really awkward. And you kind of freak them out a little bit because they're not used to it. They don't expect it. So it is quite funny to me, because I just find the whole handshake really awkward. It's just really, really formal, which I don't think should be done from friends. It's just the way it is. But yeah, that's another huge difference, which kind of took me a long time to get used to it, because I'm very touchy-feeling. Point number 7 is privacy. Now, in England, people are trying to be really reserved. And there are certain topics that, whether in my culture, are super popular to be discussed in public or with friends, in England, it's just not is the case. You know, if you are, for example, talking about money, this is a topic that generally in England you don't discuss with friends or you don't discuss in a public place. You know, English people tend to be very private about their finances. You can't discuss anything related to salary in a workplace. It's actually not legal. This is actually not a rule. You can't do it. And point number 7 is privacy. Privacy perspective in England compared to Italy is completely different. There are certain topics that in England are literally avoided to be spoken. This is not even English. Point number 7 is privacy. Now, privacy is a huge point in England. People are super reserved. English people tend to be more reserved and more discreet on what they ask and what they answer. You know, when it comes to Italy, there are certain topics that in Italy are super normal. For example, money topic, or, you know, asking to someone what kind of job do they do. These kind of topics in England, they tend to be avoided completely in any kind of public conversation. You wouldn't talk about money unless you know someone really, really well, or you wouldn't, you know, ask anybody, for example, on a date or something, as a first question, what do they do as work? And the reason behind that is because it gets kind of, you know, received as a way for you to understand how much they earn and to kind of place themselves into a set, and to actually kind of place them in a level of, you know, you earn this amount of money, you have a certain lifestyle. England is not a place that is driven by money. And what do I mean by this? Italy as a culture is a really money-driven culture, as well as America. And, you know, England is just not like that. Everybody can be rich or poor, and, you know, although they do in a very sneaky way kind of introduce how much they earn based on the way they look and the way they dress and etc., they never will discuss it. People might have a castle, but they might go to the supermarket and take the bus to go to work or something, and you will never know. It's very, very, you know, understatement. And this is something that I personally like, as I feel personally anything to deal with money or anything to deal with salary, it's a very personal matter, and I don't like to discuss these things in public because you never know how much your situation is different from somebody else's, and you don't want this to be a point of difference for someone that is in the table with you, because somebody should appreciate you for who you are, not for how much you earn. And I think this is a huge point that I really personally appreciated. I got so used to not discuss these topics that when I do get asked in Italy, when I go to my family or something, I actually get really uncomfortable. Not because the money topic is forbidden, but it's just because I'm not used to it anymore. So it's really interesting how certain habits change the way you approach certain situations. So that's a really huge point in England. So never talk about money. Point number 8 is dry sense of humor and sarcasm. Now, if you are Italian or American and you come to England and people try to be funny with you, you probably think either they're really rude or they're not funny at all, right? So American and Italian don't really understand dry sense of humor and sarcasm. It's really just different the way sarcasm works compared to normal sense of humor that I am used to it, or American people might be used to it. The reason why I say American is because American and Italian have a very huge influence to one another, so it's very similar. I noticed that all my Italian friends that come to England, or for example my family, whenever they speak to somebody that is English and people try to be super sarcastic, they get really offended because they just don't understand it. Sarcasm is a very fine line of sense of humor. It almost comes across as being rude, but it's actually kind of making a joke. And if you're not used to it, it might come across really disrespectful, but it's not really. And what is really interesting with English people, they never take themselves too seriously. And this is a huge point, especially on a situation, on a date or something. People would try to kind of make fun about the way they look themselves or the way they got dressed or anything like that. This is absolutely normal. People try to be super understatement when it comes to these things, and you know, when people take themselves too seriously in the English culture, it gets seen like really awkward and really kind of, you know, full of yourself kind of thing, and it's just not really appreciated. Something that Italian people do completely different. People that are super confident and super outgoing, and that, you know, that they don't make jokes about themselves or anything like that, get seen like, oh, you know, they are cool. So it's very, very different. And you know, I personally like this kind of more relaxed vibe, and I love sarcasm. I really get it. I am so used to it right now that every time I am in Italy and I use sarcasm jokes, people freaks out because they don't know whether I am serious or I am joking, and it's kind of interesting to watch. So that's a really good point that I personally love. Point number 9 is the drinking. Obviously, English culture is a huge drinking culture. Now, I'm not saying that Italians don't drink, but it's just the way we do that is very different. The way Italian people consume alcohol is normally in front of a meal, or, you know, you will go for an aperitivo and then you will go for dinner and then you will go for drinks again. This is the way we normally go out on a night out. Where the English people tend to go out after work, and they will be out around 5:30 or 6 p.m. and then they will have a drink and then another drink, and then before you know that, it's 11 p.m. you didn't have any dinner, and next day you feel absolutely rubbish because you didn't have any food, so you have a massive hangover. Another thing that is very different from Italy and England is the way the alcohol level gets consumed. Another point that is very different from English people and Italian people is the amount of alcohol that people drink and the social environment around it. What do I mean by this? I didn't used to drink when I came to England. I started drinking a little bit of wine and beer socially with people, just because I never tried it before and I wasn't really interested to do that. Now I enjoy a drink every now and then. However, it's really strange when people don't drink, because there is such a culture around this, so you kind of get cut off by it. So I noticed some of my friends that don't really drink very much, especially some of them are Italian, they just don't bother drinking. And we've been in a situation where, because we were not drinking, people thought we were sick or we were on antibiotics. It just doesn't happen. So people feel like it's really strange that you don't drink, which I personally find really awkward, because sometimes you might not want to drink and you kind of feel forced to do that. But obviously it's your own decision, right? Another point that is really different from the way English people drink and Italian people drink is the acceptance of the level of drunkenness that you can have. What do I mean by this? It's very normal on a Friday evening to see people on the floor in the tube and being completely off their faces because they drank too much. Something that in Italy wouldn't really happen, and if it happens, it gets seen really badly. There is more judgment to it, like people drunk in public get seen really, really badly in Italy, and it's something that they don't do. We tend to kind of do it behind the scene, and if you drink at home, it's fine, but you don't really want to be seen on the floor, because people will like be super, you know, strange about it. It would be like, what he's doing, you know. And I am halfway with it. I think people should be able to have the freedom to do whatever they feel like. And I don't drink very much, and I drink socially. And I've been in a situation where I drank a little bit too much and I was in the tube, and the fact that nobody judged me is great. And it happened in Italy as well, where I was out with my family. We had a great night out, we had a couple of drinks more, and we took a cab, and the taxi driver was just saying to us that we drank too much and we should have done it. So it was just really weird. I was like, this is none of your business. But yeah, this is where I kind of go with the English side this way. I don't drink as much as they do. I can't possibly do it, but I love the fact that everybody is kind of free to do it if they feel like it. So I like that. Point number 10 is spending habits. The way English people spend their money comparing to the way Italians spend their money is completely different. Italian people really do care a lot about the way they look, so there is so much money spent on your appearance, from your clothes to your hairdresser to your, facial every month. English women will always ensure they have their clothes on point, as well as having their hair on point, or their face on point. Everything needs to be kind of immaculate. It's just the way Italian culture wants it to be. There is so much attention to details, especially on a workplace. For example, if you are a woman and you are in an office, you have to wear ties. Like, there's no way you can be without it. It's just not acceptable. And for example, another point is you don't have to wear so much makeup if you do go out on a night out. It's just not seen as nice to wear too much makeup. It's just really distasteful. This is what Italian culture is about. Like, they don't want too much, and less is more. However, they go bold and above and beyond when it comes to their clothes. They love to be bold, they love to be seen, they love a designer, they love quality, they love branding, they love a good logo. And it's just the way, the maximalism is still a big thing in Italy in the way people approach clothing, especially in big cities like Milan or Rome. It's really, really well seen. I am kind of halfway on this because I like designer, but I don't like too much of a logo on your face. Depends on the clothes. I like to be colorful, as you guys can see. I love color and I love a little bit of a different look. I do care a lot about my appearances. However, I also love spending money on vacation, going abroad. I love museum. Something that English people do a lot is traveling much more comparing to the Italian people. Italian people try to travel in the country, but we don't really get to go abroad very much, except from London and America, that is really loved by the Italians. But in general, Italian people tend to stay there, where the English people will go to Vietnam, they will go to America, Australia. Like, you have situation where it's perfectly normal for someone to kind of take 6 months off and just go traveling. Something that in the Italian culture is just not happening. People tend to kind of stay home a little bit more. It's more of a family, kind of a close family environment. People tend to not leave the house too much, in the sense of going too far away. Something that I obviously didn't do because my family was a little bit different in the way they educated me. I traveled by myself ever since I was 16. I lived in New York when I was 18 for a year. So, it is really different, and it really is up to the family that you come from. However, normally, generally speaking, they are more into being in the country, not too far, travel if needed, and kind of be in the comfort zone a little bit. And so that's another huge point. These were the 10 biggest differences between Italian and England, and now it's time to hear from you. I want you to go on the comments below and let me know, who are you? Are you more Italian or are you more English? Let me know in the comments, what are your biggest takeaway? What are those things that you didn't know about Italy or England? And if there is anything that kind of made you laugh or makes you feel like this is really strange, or is something that you completely resonate with it. I really want to know from you what you think, and the best conversations always happen on the comments, so make sure you go there and start the conversation going, because I'm really replying to each and everybody. I just want to thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure you give us a love with a little like button. I know you did, because you got 2 here, so just give me some love. And don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you same time, same place next week. Thank you so much for watching.